Hi, welcome back. So as you can see, I've taken the liberty of opening the dinosaur. Now you'll find this in the tutorial folder that you downloaded if you haven't made your own. Now as I look at this, it's fairly well organized, so I'm going to hide all the peripheral objects by just selecting them and hitting Control H. I'll also hide this tongue here. So what we'll do is we'll UV the dinosaur first, the main body of it, and this will give us enough to work with so I can demonstrate the techniques that you need. We'll then look at laying the UVs out properly in patches to texture either in ZBrush or Mari. This will allow us to use different parts of the dinosaur in different textures. But first things first, let's get this guy sort of patched out so we can lay him flat. So the same as we did with the sphere, we need to start thinking of where to make our cuts in order to lay this out flat. So for instance, if we were to cut around the arm, we would then need to cut it in half so it was able to unfold flat. And there's a few other things. On objects like claws, for instance, you want to actually cut the claws off as separate objects. This will make them easier to texture later on. So you need to keep an eye on where your seams are, but plus which objects can be sort of fragmented off from the model with no trouble with seaming. So things like the claws, you're going to have a natural seam in between the claws and the skin fold anyway, so it's a good place to put a seam. Now, areas where you don't really want a seam, running straight down the middle of the head, for instance, or straight across the front of the belly, areas where it would be better to, say, have the underneath of the model cut. So if we were going to lay this tail out flat, we might have to cut it around here, but we definitely wouldn't want the seam to go down the front. We'd prefer it to go down the back. So if we come in and we enter our UV tool, so let's go to the bonus tools and go to UV and then auto unwrap UV. You can see when we enter the tool, our dinosaur goes a different color and we can now start selecting our edges to cut. Now, as I mentioned in the previous part, this tool gets a bit buggy for me. So you're never going to get the perfect cut the first time around. You're going to need to go in and sort of recut, and generally you're not going to get it perfect on the first try. I mean, you might surprise yourself, but in general you're going to need a couple of tries at this. You're going to find that you've cut a seam in the wrong place or something's not quite unfolding the way you expected. Now the problem I have with this tool, the problem a lot of people have with it, is after you do your UV and you click, go back to where we were before, you'll see it's left the green on my dinosaur even though I've hit cancel. So now I go assign new material and I got to put the Lambert back on, and also you can end up losing all the edges that you've selected. So if you're doing a whole dinosaur, what happens is you'll enter the tool, select your edges, you'll hit go, the tool will go wrong for whatever reason, and you'll end up having to reselect all your edges again, which is a huge pain in the backside. So what I prefer to do is not use the tool at all. I prefer to just come in and select some edges. So let's just select the edges we'd want to, say, unwrap the head. So first thing we need to do is cut the head off the body. So there's one here. And we know that the head is going to have a split in it. Whoops, that's not the right split. So we're going to split it up the back. So I just select one edge along here and then click, click, make sure we get that split coming up the back. And we'll want to make sure we're split all the way through. And missed a couple here. So that should give the head enough room to sort of unfold outwards. And I did a very bad job on selecting these edges, sorry about that, but there we go. So now I've got a head that will unfold outwards, but we're not quite done yet. If we look at the inside of the nostril, for instance, that's not going to unfold because it goes all the way back there. So we're going to need to come in and come in. And generally you're going to want to cut the inside out, which just means for me that I'm going to select this whole edge loop here. So that will allow me to separate the inside of the mouth from the rest of the head. Okay, so that's sort of selected my edges there to unwrap the dinosaur. Now I might also select the inside of the eyes here, just to make them easier to unwrap. And of course you can do this with symmetry on as well, which will make the whole process faster. Make sure I've got all the way around the neck there. Okay, and that's a pretty decent selection. That should unwrap this head here, no problem. Now the problem is, if we enter the tool now, we're going to lose all our edges. So we're going to make a selection set for our dinosaur. And in fact, to properly unwrap this, I'm also going to need to select under the chin there. Now, before we really get started, let's just unwrap this one portion that we've got here, so I can demonstrate what it looks like when it's flat and why we've cut in the places that we've cut. So instead of entering the tool straight away I'm going to go create, and then I'm going to go down to sets, and I'm going to quick selection set, and I'll just call this UV01, and I'm going to click OK. This way, if we click off our model at any time and you think, you know, I've lost all my edge selection, you can come in and go to select, and then under quick sets you've got this UV1, which, as you can see, has now selected all of our edges that we had to lay this out flat. So let's come in, select the whole mesh, go to the bonus tools, get a UV editing, and come in and again auto unwrap UV tool, enter the tool. Now we load in our quick selection sets, UV1, and hit add borders. You'll see they go a dark red because that's added the texture borders in there for us. Let's just have a check. And now I'm going to press continue. And this will unwrap the UVs. Now this might take a second or two. And there we go, see the results in the UV texture editor. So I get a UV editor, click the dinosaur, and you know, we've got some obvious problems because we didn't do the whole dinosaur, just the head. But if I select this part that has been unwrapped here, actually I just want this shell, so let's go on to shell and let's just move this out. Actually the whole thing is still connected together, but anyway, it doesn't matter. For the intents and purposes, this is the part that we've unwrapped. So you can see the head is really nice and flat, and as we go around here you can see the head all has really nice uniform squares. And there's very little in the way of stretching here. You know, and where we do have seams inside the eyeball, well, that's not such a bad thing. You know, and if we go down and look at the body, you can see that the UV for this is terrible, you know, with massive stretching and completely no uniformity whatsoever. But the head is absolutely fine. So if we just click done, there we go, that will just do that once again and finalize. Okay, now the other problem that you might experience with this tool, let's just turn the wireframe unshaded off, and as you can see the whole head is almost perfect in its UV layout. We don't have a seam down the front, so that's very nice. We've got our seam down the back here where it's going to be far less noticeable on our character, and then again look at the body, terrible UV. So what we've just done is in a couple of minutes we've UV'd an entire organic character's head, which compared to Maya's old workflow is fairly miraculous really. Now we need to get on with the rest of this. So let me just turn on the UV squares, turn off the UV squares, sorry, and you can see we're still in shell, so we'll select that nice flat shell. Now a problem with this auto unwrap tool is if I were to go and do this again, then it would destroy the UV map that I've already got. So I can't come in and UV a part of it, make sure that part is okay, and then continue with the rest. It really has to be done in one fell swoop, or at least the best way to do it is in one fell swoop. Now, if we'd have done this without those selection sets, we'd now have a problem because we'd have lost all our edges. But because we have those selection sets, I can just go up to quick selection set, UV1, which just puts all my edge selections back, go into edge mode, and I can simply continue to cut out the rest of my dinosaur. So, you know, now you've got to think where you want your seams and the best way to lay out flat is. So we're going to come here and here, and we're going to cut the arms off first of all. So that gives us, you know, another couple of sets, and then we definitely need to cut the legs off the character's body. So that's the wrong edge. And what I'll do is I'll actually just click away from there because we have all our edges saved in a selection set, and I'll arm the symmetry. So I'll just pause this part now, and I'll see you in the next part when we'll come back, and in really quick order we'll have UV'd this entire organic character. So I will see you in the next part. Thanks for watching.